We're with Finance Minister Nicola Willis, who has just released her second budget. Minister, what was the aim here? Is it just to bring down government debt? And if so, have you achieved that?
No, the aim was to grow the economy so that New Zealanders can look forward to better paying jobs, more incomes in their households, and so that we as a government can continue to invest more in the frontline services that people rely on: education, health, our police. And so with this budget, we've had to strike a careful balance because the government books have been very out of whack. We have been running very big deficits, accumulating a lot of debt, and that can't go on forever. So we've struck a balance which sees us getting the books back into balance over the medium term, seeing that debt burden bend down, but also investing for the here and now, in hospitals, in schools, and the things that matter.
These interest payments, they amount to about $9 billion. As you've mentioned, that is all of law enforcement. That is a lot of money. But New Zealand is going to go into more debt, and the surplus in 2029 is very thin, $200 million. Have you gone far enough on bringing government spending under control?
Well, I think that shows you just why we have to be so careful with our spending choices right now, because that debt burden is going to continue to grow. Every year we are still spending more than we are earning. And yet what we find is that our political opponents tell us we shouldn't be saving money anywhere, that we should just keep spending more. And we're trying to get the right balance. We want to keep the economy growing because that's ultimately what will put the books in better shape, but most importantly, families in better shape. So we think we've got the right balance of policies that keep us on our fiscal strategy, mean that New Zealanders don't need to fear instability in the future.
Your budget was met by protests on the lawn of Parliament, people gathering because of the changes to the Equal Pay Act that makes it harder for women to make pay equity claims. It saves the government about $12 billion over 4 years. Labor says every new spending decision has come at the expense of women. Is that true?
It's completely untrue, because what we have done in this budget is ensured that there is funding for future pay equity settlements where they relate to gender discrimination, which is what the law was meant to be about. What happened under Labor was it got completely out of control. The costs blew out enormously from what they had initially forecast to be, because all sorts of other claims were being added to those settlements. I note that Labor haven't recommitted to that flawed regime, that even the unions themselves have acknowledged the regime was imperfect. And the simple fact is, every man and every woman was paying for that broken regime through the taxes that they pay.
I asked before if there was any information about what that saved money, that $12 billion, would mean for actual salaries, and you said there was no advice on that. Is there any idea of how many claims will be successful, how many claims you will still face?
Well, we've been advised not to make a legal judgment on that, because ultimately employers and employees will decide whether claims have merit and then they will progress them. But the law is now much clearer. As the law used to be, some claims were being prolonged for months and months and months because there was a lack of clarity about what was in and what was out. We think we've struck a nice, careful regime right now that actually ensures that genuine discrimination can be corrected against. That's the right thing to do, but it's not the right thing to do to have a scheme that's so unaffordable that it was going to cost New Zealand billions and billions.
Is there genuine discrimination? Will we actually see claims succeed?
I have been advised that we will, and that's why I've put funding aside to settle those claims.
The other big change, KiwiSaver, the government contribution halving down to $260. Why even keep that?
Well, the reason I've kept it in the end is that I think for some people it is a bit of a nudge to be in KiwiSaver, that they think, well, that's money I wouldn't otherwise get, and so I think it is helpful in that regard. But we've had to strike that balance, which is that we want KiwiSaver to be an affordable scheme for the government into the future. We know that the cost of superannuation is rising very rapidly, and so we want to make sure that KiwiSaver continues to be robust. Overall, New Zealanders' savings will grow with the changes that we've made today.
Can you commit to keeping the government contribution to KiwiSaver while you're in government? You noted that officials said maybe it isn't worth it anymore.
Yeah, officials' advice was they thought we should drop it. They don't think that there is evidence that it's lifted the overall rate at which New Zealand households save. I think it's helpful because I think it sends a signal, and I think it encourages people to be part of KiwiSaver, which is a good scheme. It's automatic, it's simple, it's straightforward.
And will you keep the contribution?
Yes.
Is there anything in the budget that you think needs more attention. Are there any surprises in there that you want to tell the public about?
Well, look, something that's very close to my heart is learning support in our schools. I think any parent who's had a kid at school, either their own child has an additional need, whether it's behavioural or physical, or they know someone in the class who does. And for many years, many teachers have struggled to support those children well because they haven't had access to the intervention services, to the teacher aides, to the help that they need. And this budget has an enormous investment in learning support because we think that will make a difference to kids with additional needs, their parents, and all kids in New Zealand classrooms.
Do you know the dollar figure of that?
It's over $600 million.
And very lastly, investment boost, 20% rebate effectively immediately. Who is that helping? And do you think it could be used as an excuse for sole traders to buy a new car? Or?
Well, the advice that we got from our officials was that bang for buck, this was the best policy that we could do in tax to encourage growth, and their advice was the beneficiaries of this policy will be workers. And they said the reason for that is that this policy will result in more employment and higher wages, and that the benefits will be widely spread across New Zealand. Because what it will do is both reward businesses who are investing in the future of our economy by giving them a lower tax bill, but it will also encourage the kind of investment that supports better paying jobs, supports more exports, supports more productivity. So it's the kind of policy that says to every tradie, every farmer, every manufacturer, every small business person, we back you, invest in your business, invest in New Zealand.
Okay. Minister Willis, thank you for your time on Budget Day.
Thanks, Glenn.